Welcome back, Top 10 Pauper Cube series. This time, your boy Green. Now, Green's been getting a huge boost in the standard sets as of late, and pretty much everything else. But in Pauper Cube, a lot of its utility is largely replaced by signets, and the fact that it doesn't have busted creatures at common as it does in other rarities. That being said, I do draft Green quite a lot because it does have some very busted cards. One card in particular is arguably the best card in the cube. So stay tuned and let's check them out. Starting off my green list with the honorable mention, Krosan Tusker, 5 green, 6/5, cycling 2 and green. When you cycle Krosan Tusker, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. I love modal cards like this. On turn 3, if you're doing nothing else, just cast what is sort of a divination, but it also fixes your lands. Later, 7-drop, 6/5, not impressing anybody, but the flexibility is good. You know, a few years ago, I guess it's been several years back, people would argue this would probably be one of the best green cards there is. But we've had some power creep, and maybe I just don't appreciate this card as much as other people do. But I do love flexibility. Starting off the list properly with number 10, Wickerbow Elder from Eventide. Yep, Eventide. 3 and green, 4/4. Wickerbow Elder comes into play with a -1/1 counter on it. Remove a -1/1 counter from Wickerbow Elder. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So essentially you could just play this as a 5-drop 4/4 disenchant. It interacts well with the Amonkhet -1/1 creatures. Soul Stinger comes to mind. But that's kind of a corner case. On its own, it's just a good disenchant creature. It works with flicker effects. Disenchants if you're running signets and hexproof and oblivion rings and pacifisms. It's really nice to have it on a creature that doesn't rely on actually using the disenchant effect. This creature's never dead, and when it actually has a target, it's a very good utility creature. My number 9 here is about raw value. Trumpeting Herd from Modern Horizons, 2 green sorcery, create a 3/3 green elephant creature token and rebound. You know, back in my day we had Call of the Herd, which was 3 mana to cast to get the same effect, and you'd have to pay 4 mana to flash back, and that was a rare. Granted, that came out in Odyssey in like 2000 or 2001, but still, it's kind of crazy to see the power creep that green and basically every color in Magic that's not white has had. Now, this might not be the most impressive card, but ramping into this on turn 3 is pretty good for Pauper Cube. Whether I'm playing this for more bodies in my aggressive decks, or just to gum up the ground in my control or ramp decks, I think 2 3/3s for 4 mana on a common is kind of just too much power to not respect. At number 8, I have Wall of Roots, originally from Mirage. 1 in green, 0/5, put a -0/-1 counter on Wall of Roots to add 1 green mana to your mana pool. Use this as a mana source and only once each turn. This also is a wall. You know, it doesn't have Defender on it, but you know, we got to use the Mirage version to represent and all that. Anyways, the only problem with this card is it's a 2 mana ramp spell, and signets kind of fill that role in every color. That being said, this one doesn't have to tap to be used, and can be used on your turn and then consecutively on your opponent's turn, and later can just still block creatures as long as you don't go too far down. It interacts well with blink effects. 2 mana 0/5 can stonewall a lot of creatures. Maybe I just have a soft spot for Wall of Roots, but I think it's more than that. I actually think this is a very good green ramp card. The problem is we just have a ton of good green ramp cards. At number 8, we have kind of a crowd favorite here, so I might be in trouble for ranking it so low. Yavimaya Elder from Urza's Destiny, 1 green, 2/1. When Yavimaya Elder is put into a graveyard from play, search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal them, and put them to your hand, shuffle your library. 2, sacrifice Elder, draw a card. So you play this, and it's a speed bump for aggro decks, and you might get lucky and trade for the creature, and essentially draw 2 lands. If not, you can spend a total of 5 mana to get 2 lands and a random card. That's not a bad rate. I mean, it's 5 mana, draw 3, but you know, they're lands later. If you want gas, it's not great. Playing this and blocking a creature and trading with it's, you know, basically the best thing for this, in my opinion. That being said, you know, you can't always trade for their creature. You know, aggressive decks obviously don't want it. It's not the easiest card to cast with the double green on turn 3. There's a lot of good things to say about Yavimaya Elder, but it also, in my opinion, has a lot of flaws that kind of keep it out of the top spots on the top 10. Just above Yavimaya Elder, I have Llanowar Visionary from M21, 2 in green, 2/2. When it comes into play, draw a card, tap to add green. I might get in some trouble rating this above Yavimaya Elder, but the fact that you can just play this and get some card advantage immediately without having to spend more mana on it, and you can play it for a single green mana instead of the double that's in Yavimaya Elder, I prefer this card. It also obviously ramps. I think this is a very fine example of the power creep in creatures in Magic. You know, back in Apocalypse, Phyrexian Rager, which is a 3 mana 2/2, you lose a life and draw a card in black. That was, you know, an auto include in every black section. And now you have Llanowar Visionaries in green, and I mean, green's supposed to be the color of creatures, right? But being a 3-drop 2/2 that draws a card with no drawback and it taps for mana, it's just power creep. And like, I don't think it's busted at this point, but it just shows the change in Magic over the years. Now, in my opinion, this is better than Yavimaya Elder. They're fairly similar, so I guess your mileage may vary. But in my book, the Fire and Forget, draw a card, free ramp, solid body for 3 mana, it puts it a bit above the Yavimaya Elder. At number 6, I have Penumbra Spider from Time Spiral, 2 green, 2/4. It's got reach. Whenever Penumbra Spider is put into a graveyard from play, put a 2/4 black spider creature token into play with reach. This card is very, very difficult to remove. Only pacifism effects efficiently remove it, and you can disenchant those. You can't really burn it. It's hard to attack through. It blocks almost all the flyers in the cube. And if they do actually remove it, if it dies in combat, hey, you've got another one. And that one happens to be black, so it doesn't necessarily die to Doomblade effects. Penumbra Spider is, once you're in green midrange or green ramp, is one of the most solid bodies that you can draft. The problem with green is it doesn't block evasion very well, and it dies to Doomblade. Well, Penumbra Spider solves both of those problems. At number 4, I have Utopia Sprawl from Dissension. Green, enchantment, enchant forest. When it comes to play, choose a color. When enchanted forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of the chosen color to his or her mana pool. So this is essentially sharing this spot with Llanowar Elves, and it's the whole Llanowar Elves ilk. I don't want to have an entire top 10 devoted to Llanowar Elves variants. That being said, you know, it's pretty similar to this card. I do think that Utopia Sprawl is better by virtue of being more difficult to kill. Now, you do have to have a forest in play, but if you're playing green ramp, your mana is probably going to be mostly dominated by forests anyway. I think all of the 1 mana accelerants in green are very high picks and a reason to play green ramp. It's kind of the only thing that green has above just playing signets. You know, signets are 2 mana ramp. Utopia Sprawl and Llanowar Elves are first turn ramp. First turn ramp is quite a bit better than second turn ramp. At number 3, I have Mulder Cloak from Ravnica, the original Ravnica. We've been there a few times, so I guess I should be specific, right? 2 in green, aura, enchanted creature gets +3/+3, dredge 2. This is very similar to Elephant Guide, and Elephant Guide arguably belongs in the top 10, but such similar cards, kind of like the last slot, I don't want to really have the whole list dominated by them. A lot of Pauper Cubes will opt to run a hexproof package. Now you have Aven Fleetwings, Spirit of the Rapids, Primal Hunt Beast. There's several hexproof creatures that are on decent rate, and once you put something like Mulder Cloak on them, they can actually start taking over the game or just outright kill your opponent. And the fact that you can just mill this over, or if it gets disenchanted, just get it back the next turn if you opt to do so, kind of puts Mulder Cloak on my top 10 above Elephant Guide and a lot of other enchantments. In aggressive decks in the late game, this ensures that you can draw gas every turn. And I think that alone, plus being an integral part of a hexproof deck, is merit enough to put this on the top 10. You could argue that it belongs a few spaces down, but I think the raw power level of this and potential ability to run away with the game is merit enough to put it in this spot. My number 2, which needs no introduction and has been openly admitted as a mistake by Wizards of the Coast in its casting cost and its rarity, Rancor, originally from Urza's Legacy, single green creature enchantment, enchanted creature gets +2/+0, and trample. Whenever Rancor is put into a graveyard from play, return Rancor to its owner's hand. These are just busted stats for a single green mana. As long as you have 1/1 tokens in play, this is making those creatures legitimate threats, and they're going to trade with your opponent's creatures, or they're just going to die. They can't disenchant this. If they kill the creature, you're likely going to get the Rancor back unless they're responding to you casting it. Rancor is the reason to have green as an aggressive supplement. Between Rancor and Mulder Cloak and multiple pump spells, green is a great accompaniment to any aggressive deck, giving it a lot of longevity and power to punch through any kind of defenses. My number 1 pick for best green card overall in the Pauper Cube format, Sprout Swarm from Future Sight. 1 in green, instant. Convoke, buy back 3, put a 1/1 green sapling creature token into play. Now, if you've played in Time Spiral Limited or in Pauper Cube that actually includes this card, you know why it's number 1, and there's not really any other competition for the number 1 spot. Even Rancor in my mind, I'm going to pick Sprout Swarm first pick over Rancor every single time. If you're in a reasonable position, or if you're ever ahead, Sprout Swarm is just going to take over the game. Now, it does take some setup. It takes bodies in play, or it takes a pretty heavy ramp deck. But once you get this going, you play Sprout Swarm every turn, and every turn you can play Sprout Swarm easier. If your opponent's not actively killing you and killing your creatures, then Sprout Swarm is going to single-handedly win the game from that point forward. Some people would probably argue this is the best card in the entire format, and a lot of people just opt to not play Sprout Swarm at all because it's kind of a feel-bad. Myself, I like playing powerful cards, so Sprout Swarm has always been in my format, and it doesn't always win the game when you can cast it, but it wins a lot of them. That does it for the green section of my Pauper Cube series. There are a lot of cards that I considered putting on there, like Wild Mongrel, but for me, green in Pauper Cube more excels as a mid-range and ramp color. You already have several cards like Mulder Cloak and Rancor that can supplement aggressive strategies, and for me, like having your own green aggressive creatures, I just think there's better options, but I would not begrudge anybody who would prefer to have a card like that on the list. There are a lot of cards that I could have included on the list, but I think the ones that I did include kind of speak to green's strengths. Powerful creature enchantment, early ramp, and busted cards like Sprout Swarm. There are a few cards that I'm not sure about their exact placement, but I do think this is a very solid top 10 list for Pauper Cube. If you disagree, feel free to let me know. Have a good one.